The question is, are you ready?
What do you guys want to talk about?
Let me talk to you.
Throwdown Nation, we are live. It is a Monday night. We are rolling on Instagram, YouTube, Twitter /X, Facebook, and TikTok. It is episode 95 of the Throwdown with Matt, and tonight we are throwing down with a pro wrestling commentator based here in Atlanta. He is another of many talented people associated with WWA4. And like I say, every chance I get, AR Fox has a ton to be proud of. Ladies and gentlemen, Don Miguel. How you doing tonight, sir?
Good. How are you?
I cannot complain. So, I'll go ahead and tell anybody that's watching this live, if you have questions or comments, throw them in the chat, and we'll either handle them as we go or do a little Q&A at the end. So we'll go ahead and get started with the first and most obvious question, and that is, how long have you been involved with wrestling?
So about, I'd say around 2 years. I'd give you more of a specific answer, but depending on the month, it was either when I officially got started commentary versus when Don Miguel was made, but in general, just 2 years.
So, have you trained, I guess, specifically at WWA4 the whole time? And did you ever have aspirations to actually wrestle?
So when it comes to commentary announcing, I do all that training at the A4. That's where I got my start with everything, and I'm fortunate to be doing those weekly Thursday shows. But when it comes to like wrestling itself, no training. I do not want to be a wrestler. That's never something I ever envisioned for myself. I always make the joke, I'm a punk. I hate pain. I'm not gonna put myself in a situation like that. My job is the greatest. I get to be on the sidelines safely, talking about action, dudes fighting in their tights, and getting paid for it. So I think I made the correct decision on that one.
Absolutely. So I guess in terms of the early portions of your training to become a commentator, what was the most challenging aspect of it for you to wrap your mind and body around?
I would say, well, two things. One, the A4 did a good job at getting me ready physically in terms of, at the time, not only was I doing, or there were points where I was doing commentary. There was points I would be holding the camera, which was on a phone. So I'd be walking around the ring while talking. And some nights I might be doing announcing. I do that a lot more often now. And the even worst case scenario, like let's say Rico Gonzalez was doing his entrance, I had to be the flashlight guy. So it was four jobs in one, and it became very taxing. But it was one of those things where I learned, if I can do those 4 jobs at the same time and do it well, imagine what it would be when I get to focus on 1 or 2, like sit down and get to do what I can, what God gifted me to do. So luckily A4 prepared me for that. But then another thing I had to learn pretty early on was that this job is fun, right? There's no question about it. But again, it is a job. There's a certain level of professionalism that comes with it. And I had to learn that it's okay to have fun while you're working, but you can't let the fun overtake the job.
Exactly. Exactly. You know, you're a young guy, but you've got wisdom beyond your years.
Uh, all thanks to God and my parents on that one.
Speed round. And you're probably going to see a pattern with these. Gordon Soley.
I do not know who that is.
Gordon Soley was a wrestling commentator back in the early to mid 1980s. He did a lot of commentary for what was kind of the precursor to WCW. The old World Championship Wrestling, and before that, Georgia Championship Wrestling. And he also did commentary down in Florida for Florida Championship Wrestling. So, if you're interested in studying other commentators, Gordon Soley would be a good one to do some study on. He was they called him the Dean back then because he was really good. So.
Yeah, no, I'll definitely have to check him out. And I'll go ahead and apologize to you in advance, just because with my wrestling history knowledge, it is very minimal. So I will.
That's fine. That's fine. Most of the other names on here are more current. So,
Right.
So, commentators have a persona all their own. And it sounds like you've sort of developed the Don Miguel character a bit. So some try, and this is actually something that I got from actually my previous guest. This past weekend, I actually had a pro wrestler, a Ukrainian wrestler who is currently living in Spain. But the question or the something that he brought up, and I'm incorporating it into what I do here. The guy's name is Jake Kobe, but he said, somebody asked him once to sum up his persona in 5 words. Can you sum up Don Miguel in 5 words, roughly?
There isn't. It's just me.
Okay.
I could go longer, but I don't know if we're trying to keep it 5 words or not.
It doesn't. So basically, Don Miguel is you just enhanced.
More so, not even just enhanced. It's the me I wish I could be, but it's a double-edged sword of that, because Don Miguel, like the one thing Don Miguel has is the confidence to talk about like whatever he says, he can say with confidence, even if he's wrong. He's just willing to like do whatever it takes to get the job done, make sure the fans are enjoying it. He's doing right by the wrestlers, and like that confidence is what I love about being Don. But the drawback, the one thing that Don has that I try not to have, or I feel like I can't have, is pride, his ego, because like I'm you'll hear me mention it probably a lot. I'm somebody who's very strong in my faith, and so God always teaches us, not to have pride, not to have ego. But it's one of those things I can't help but have it a little, and it's one of those things I wish I can turn off. But sometimes
Right.
it's hard, because it's like, okay, who's getting yelled at, or like who just made this mistake? Was it Don making a mistake, or was it Miguel making a mistake? And so there's always a line it's hard to figure out where it is. But I've learned to try to have more confidence in my day-to-day life because of what the Don does, but then also to not have ego and just be humble and give all thanks to God, or to literally everybody else, because I wouldn't have a job if it wasn't for wrestlers, if it was for anybody else in that ring. So at the end of the day, man, all compliments to all of them.
Absolutely. So, have you been a fan of this stuff the majority of your life? And if so, what is your earliest wrestling related memory?
So I would say, I mean, it was definitely as a kid that I got started. I love my grandpa, may he rest in peace, but he was the one that showed me wrestling. He was the one that got me into it. And like, I remember seeing some little brown guy in a mask calling himself Rey Mysterio and just looking like an
Oh yeah.
absolute superhero and being the coolest thing I've ever seen. But then as I got older, it was just one of those things where, like, you find out wrestling is fake and, you get, clowned about it at school or whatever. So I kind of took a heavy hiatus from it. And I probably didn't get back until I was much, much older, like definitely like high school years, college years. I got back. Ooh, it was during Lucha Underground that I got back into it. And so like that's how I first saw AR Fox, or at the time Dante Fox, your Prince
Yeah.
Pumas, and like that's how I began to spread out my knowledge of wrestling outside of WWE. But then of course I got back into WWE. And yeah, so it was definitely a long hiatus, which is probably why my knowledge of certain things isn't so great. But it's one thing I feel like in a way kind of gives me an edge because I work my hardest to not sound like anybody you hear. And so it's one of those things where I do try to study so I can be better, but also try not to take if I can avoid it, if that makes sense.
It does. It does. And it's funny. I'm in the process right now of going down the Lucha Underground rabbit hole. I'm in the middle of season 2 right now, just kind of watching it as I have a little time here and there. And it really is fun, seeing some of the stars of today, a few years ago doing Lucha Underground, like, you mentioned Prince Puma, Brian Cage, Swerve Strickland. I mean,
Him especially, man, I hate that some of the wrestlers now can't take some of the wrestlers or some of the characters from Lucha Underground and like use a mask and stuff like that because they were just the coolest.
Oh, I know, and I'm hearing rumors that apparently WWE has acquired the rights to Lucha Underground, and there's talk of a revival of Lucha Underground possibly on Netflix.
Man,
We'll see. We'll see. I would love it.
Or even if you're gonna get the rights to that, maybe make like a type of show, pay-per-view, or like make something with that content, and like especially like reintroduce some characters. Like for example, Santos Escobar as a wrestler is phenomenal, but he's like one of those people we've seen it where I forgot, I can't remember if it was Money in the Bank or Royal Rumble, but like he comes out, you don't really hear anything, and the LA Knight comes out and he's crazy. You want to give Santos Escobar a good pop, make him King Cuerno again. Like he was the coolest.
Yeah.
King Cuerno.
Yeah. Well, I remember during the later stages of Ricochet's tenure at WWE, I remember watching an episode of Monday Night Raw, and Pat McAfee and Michael Cole were kind of riffing back and forth, and McAfee said something like, "Look how agile he is. It's just like a puma." And then Cole said, "Yeah, he's royalty." It was hilarious.
Or just even in other promotions. I remember, I forgot what promotion it was with, but Ricochet had this match, and the other guy's going against. He goes, he's looking at his pants, he's looking at Ricochet. He goes, "Wait, you're," and then everybody's like, "No, don't say it, don't say it." So moments like that are just awesome.
Oh yeah, absolutely. So so what does your family think about you working as a wrestling commentator?
I think it's like all kind of family would be. It's one of those things where it's not a doctor or anything, so it's kind of like, especially when you explain certain things, it's obviously not going to make sense to them, which I can't blame them for that. Or even like certain things traditionally with the business, like I mean, if you ask any wrestler, like especially when you're starting out, you get paid in a handshake and hot dog. Like it's not exactly something a parent wants to hear. So it's something that it's been a struggle. Like I'd be lying if I said it wasn't, but they haven't stopped being supportive. Like they've always looked out for my best interest, even if it does sound not like supporting. That's just parents. So it's something in the grand scheme of things where I may hate it in the moment, but I know why they're saying it. And I mean, like that still hasn't stopped. I was at Charlie's Collectible show the other day. I was doing ring announcing, and the plan after the show was to go to my uncle's house because he lived close by, and I thought that they were going to go to something else while I was doing that. I wasn't expecting to see anybody, but then I walked down the stairs from the locker room and I see my uncle and dad, which by the way, my uncle just goes out loud, "Hey, it's the Donna Compton." And everybody looks at me and then I just get like immediately red because I'm like, why are you doing this? But
That's awesome, though.
so it's one of those things where like all of my family has been supportive, even if it's ways that I don't like, but they've been supportive nonetheless, and I love them so much for it.
That's awesome. I was just noticing over on YouTube, Mama Snuggy Bear just said, Miguel, the coolest kid. I don't know
Yeah.
if is that somebody you know?
She heads our Dungeons and Dragons games every Wednesday.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, like I said, I'm a nerd. Like anything you ask about me will be nerd related. I could probably talk more about superheroes than I do wrestling.
That's awesome. So, that's actually kind of a perfect segue into the next question then. So, outside of this, what are some of your other hobbies and interests?
So D&D every Wednesday. I love playing video games. I graduated college with a game design major, so video games was bound to be an interest. I try to do voice acting, whether it's TikToks or like actually auditioning for stuff. I'm trying to think what else I do. I feel like that's kind of mainly it. That and just grind my butt off on my day job. That and I guess wrestling. I hate calling wrestling a hobby because obviously I want to make this a career.
Right.
So it was something for a while that kind of irked me when people called it a hobby. But I mean, I'm blessed to do it. So no matter what you call it, I'm doing it and I love it.
Absolutely. It's funny. When I was in high school, I tried desperately to get into D&D, and I could it just never clicked with me. I mean, maybe I wasn't with the right group of people. I don't know, but I just I don't know.
So weirdly, I got into it because it was my first time around having COVID, and so I had nothing to do, and we had this conversation off camera, but I was very like big watching the Daredevil Netflix show, and I was watching this video where Karen Page, I forget the actress's name, but she's teaching everybody around her, or like she's like conducting a Dungeons and Dragons game with Charlie Cox. And so like I'm watching them play this because it's Daredevil, like I'm gonna watch it. But then the more they start playing it, I'm like, this actually looks really interesting. And like come to find out, like out here in Hiram, there's a store called Killer Finds, and apparently they did D&D, so I checked it out, and then I got introduced to a table, and I've been with them since.
Nice. So, speed round.
Yeah.
Jim Ross.
Surprisingly, somebody I didn't, I guess, necessarily listen to a lot, simply because anytime I heard his voice at the time was in all the video games, more than I did on TV. But with that being said, iconic.
Yep. Absolutely. So, we talked a little bit about this, off camera, but we're pretty much a wrestling related show here, but we do dabble a little bit in pop culture. So, aside from the new Daredevil series, are you watching or listening to anything cool right now?
Watching, I am about to get started on Jack Reacher season 2 because I know season 3 is currently out episode by episode, and I've only seen season 1, so I want to watch that. I'm gearing up for Last of Us season 2. I've been strategically, so for the first show, I make sure I played the first game kind of a week in advance so that come showtime, all the info was fresh in my brain. So I'm going to do the same thing with Last of Us Part 2. But in terms of, and then the other thing I've been watching and rewatching is The Chosen. It's so good. If you get a chance to watch it, I definitely recommend it. And then listening, I listen to everything. I'm a sucker, especially if I'm trying to get hyped for a show that I'm working, I'm gonna listen to some old Eminem, like some like Till I Collapse, like those songs. Like I love those. And then something I listen to a lot, and it's probably it's definitely a problem. something called Epic the Musical. I don't know if you heard of it, but
No, I can't say that I have. It's that the very name is intriguing though.
so it was made by a guy named Jorge Rivera Herons, and the story of Epic is that it's about the Odyssey. So if you read the Odyssey, then you kind of know like the story of it. So there's no like spoilers or anything, but
Mhm.
it's really good musically, and I like it so much that I've made a couple references on commentary. I did it the other Thursday, and like I said the line, and maybe a minute later, I just get a text from who did I get a text from? No, from Herculon Rage. If you ever get a chance to interview him, he's a dope person. But I get a
Okay.
message from Herculon was like, "Is that an Epic reference?" And I was just so happy that somebody caught it, and we talked about it afterwards. And he was like, "To anybody that's seen Epic, it was a great reference. To anybody that hasn't, it just sounded like the coolest line that a commentator could ever drop." So yeah, Epic the Musical. If you get a chance, check it out. It's really good.
Very cool. So Loose Link just told you to shut up, but he loves you.
That's good old Loose Link Lucio, one of the A4 boys. He's crazy, but love him.
Awesome. So let's see here. So outside of the wrestling world, what person inspires you the most and why?
Outside of wrestling.
Yeah.
Okay. Honestly, the first person that comes to mind, honestly, is Jesus. Just because at the end of the day, right? He gave his life. He truly gave it
Yes,
all.
he did. He did.
So why wouldn't I give my like? I know it's not enough by any means, but I'm gonna give my life to him because that is only fair for what he did for me and for all of us. So at the end of the day,
Absolutely.
I like whether it's wrestling work, whether it's day-to-day job work, whether it's doing little things, like I'm gonna give it 100% because that's what he deserves. And so you can guarantee no matter what I do on commentary announcing, if it's great and you love it, please give all glory to him. Think of him before you think of me. And if I do terrible, it's probably because I was leaning on my own understanding and not listening to him. So please throw all the bad on me, throw all the good on him.
Absolutely, man. Like I said, man, you are wise beyond your years, and and I can tell God is doing something cool with you, man.
I appreciate it. Like I try to tell people wisdom just means there were a lot of trials to be learned from, and
Yeah.
there are certain trials that I hope everybody kind of goes through to learn some lessons I have, and then I also pray that there are some trials that I hope nobody goes through. But
Yeah.
at the end of the day, they've made me who I am. Whether I'm happy about them or angry about them, it doesn't matter. I've lived with it. I'm going forward with it, and like I said, at the end of the day, as Don Miguel, I would love to be considered greatest of all time at what I do. Don't get me wrong, but I don't
Yeah.
do that for me. I do that for him because I hope that through the greatness that I bring, it shows his glory, and
Hmm.
it's all about him. It's never me.
Absolutely. So, so you mentioned Hiram. Is that your hometown?
Um, no, I technically was born like I grew up around Cobb County, but then I was in Lithia Springs / Douglasville for a good chunk of my life, and then
Really? That's where my wife's from.
oh, nice. And so I'll try to think. It was freshman year of college.
Hmm.
It sounds so weird to say. I might add because I did just graduate college last year, but a freshman year of college, we move out and then we come out here to Hiram. So Hiram's been home for the past however many years, and it's been one of those things where every place got its pros and cons, but as long as we got good restaurants around here, which we do, I'm a happy man.
Awesome. Awesome. So, what would you say is your favorite thing about Hiram?
Ooh, favorite thing about Hiram? Well, two things. First of all, the fact that there's a spot for D&D and a spot for nerds is just awesome. No, excuse me. And then like I said, the food. I got big back energy. I love food till the day I die. There's always a spot for everything, no matter what you enjoy. You can always find a good deal, and so I would shout out some restaurants, but there's too many for me to shout out. So,
Got you. Speed round.
uh,
Corey Graves.
phenomenal at heel work.
Yep. Great heel commentator for sure.
100%. And I try, at least in my work, I don't want to say I try to be a face commentator or a heel commentator. I just try to be a commentator, because one thing I got taught at the A4, and I think when I was taught this, it was meant more specifically for the A4, but it was just such a healthy mindset that I've tried to carry it with me no matter what promotion I'm at. But at the end of the day, my job is to bring up everybody, whether you are a heel or a face, whether I like you or not. So
Yep.
I try to play, I guess, a fine line. And I guess that's the beauty of play-by-play is I'm talking about the action, and the action has no like opinion. Good or bad guy, you did throw a punch. So I'm going to say you threw a punch. And so that's probably why I like that side of the job more.
Yeah. You know, it's funny. I have just for fun from time to time, I've put on wrestling, turned the volume down, and tried to do play-by-play, and it is hard. I mean,
so that's how I guess I work on my craft. And I will say, the only reason I know the moves so well, and I tell everybody this and they think it's a joke, I play the WWE 2K games a lot, and I just make a lot of characters. So I go through the move list pretty consistently. And luckily for a lot of the things, it's very technical like names. So I just happen to memorize that over the years. And the only reason I knew I could do it is because the girl I was dating at the time, when she had first shown me the A4, like I didn't even realize I was doing it out loud, but I was just saying the moves as they were happening. That was the only reason I had any indication that it was a possibility. So then come meeting Fox for a school assignment I was doing, like a documentary thing, and I asked him if I could give commentary a try, and he was just like, yeah, show up and give it a try. A try turned into 2 years successfully because apparently I just memorized video game moves. So
but yeah, it's funny. You know, I mean, I know the names of all the moves, but you know, trying to do commentary when a match is moving fast, it's hard to do. It is. So, you know, hats off to you, man.
Yeah. I always like to, I like to think of commentary kind of like battle rap, and I think that's why I love it so much. Because sometimes, like, okay, like, what have you thought about, like, outside of the show that, like, you want to say at some point, and then what can you come up with on the spot? What's clever? Like, can you go fast? Can you go slow? Like, can you control your pace? Like, different stuff like that. And so that's why I always have fun with it.
Got you. So, so tell us. We've sort of touched on this a little bit, but tell us more about on-air Don Miguel and kind of compare and contrast him with everyday you.
Everyday me is not as exciting at all. I am a work when I can, and as soon as I come home, be the absolute laziest, unproductive person in the world. I do try to do some stuff, but at the end of the day, Miguel is a simple man. Like, he doesn't ask for much because he doesn't want much. I try not to ask for things that are unnecessary. Like, don't get me wrong, money's cool and all because it makes the world go around, but I don't need a lot of it, nor do I want it, because I see what it does to people. So Miguel's very low key, keeps to his same group of friends, and just like is just kind of living life day to day as best he can. Whereas Don is shooting for the stars. He wants, and like I said, this goes back to having that ego, that pride. And I do say the truth when I say I give it all to God. But like I said, there is a percent of me that wants it, that like wants the top spot, wants to be considered best in the world. I want to be the JRs, the Michael Coles, the Corey Graves, that, oh, I grew up on Don Miguel. Like, he's the reason I got into wrestling, or he's the reason I got into commentary. I want to be that guy for future generations. And so Don Miguel is, like I said, his confidence, the way he goes after what he wants, all those type of qualities. Those are the differences.
Gotcha. So tell us about the very first match you called. Um, what was it like? How did it go? Were you nervous before starting, and how did you feel afterward?
So surprisingly, I I I really don't remember that much from my first match. I think just because I've done so many now that kind of just all blends in together. But
Right.
I know I've tried. I don't remember. I don't remember who was in the match specifically, but I can tell you my partner was Fox,
Mm-hmm.
and I thought it was cool. And it was one of those things where, again, because he's next to me, I'm also freaking out because this is my first time at the Ford being a commentator. And like
Yeah.
maybe like an hour before, like he grabs the mic, or like he leaves, says, "Hey, yo, this is Miguel. He's gonna be a new commentator, kind of come to him with notes and everything." So it's like now it's hit, like it's reality, it's become real. I'm here whether I like it or not.
Yep.
So it was definitely nerve wracking, and I would keep like looking to see if like did I say something crazy? Did I say something wrong? And luckily, I got the thumbs up from him at the end. So it was a good day. And like I said, that thumbs up has kept me going for 2 years now.
Awesome. Awesome. So this is a question that I've asked to all of my guests, and I'm going to ask it to you from the perspective of being a commentator and watching a lot of wrestling and watching wrestlers perform. From your perspective, do you think it is more important that an in-ring talent be great in the ring or great on the mic?
On the mic, without question. Because especially if you're in a company like WWE, AEW, New Japan, whatever, like those big companies, it's
Mm-hmm.
expected you can wrestle. That's the bare minimum. What stands you
Yeah.
out is can you talk? Because
Yeah.
like, well, I mean, I feel like it's gonna be kind of weird if I throw examples out. But for example, um, Ricochet, right?
Mm-hmm.
There is no question the things he can do in the ring are absolutely insane.
Yeah.
But there's a reason certain people were connected, especially come his WWE days, is because when he did talk, you didn't really like you didn't care for it. Whereas
Yeah.
you have somebody like The Miz, Dolph Ziggler, MJF, Punk, like some of these guys were decent wrestlers, good wrestlers, and some of them like obviously great in the ring. But what
Mm-hmm.
made them stood out, their favorite moments are on the mic. I would rather you be on the mic and don't wrestle at all. Like don't even
Yeah.
wrestle, just have the drama. Like that's a
Yeah.
great show in itself. And that's why my favorite like match of all time was like the Miz versus Dolph Ziggler, No Mercy title versus career. And it wasn't like the match itself. Like both of them can do great things. Like they're not high flyers, but they can do great things. But it was the story, that build up, the things they said on the mic, the things they made you feel. And luckily, it's funny. I always make the joke, um, who you hate as kids or who you grow up to like as an adult. And that was the Miz. I hated Miz as a kid,
Yeah.
but like now, like man, he should be talked about more with the things he can do. Like
Oh, absolutely.
the
I
older he's
mean,
got, he could do springboard moves. He could do like some of the crazy things now that he's older. But then on top, still have great mic skills. Like an absolute goat right there for real.
yeah. Yeah. You were mentioning MJF. The thing that has been a joy about watching MJF is, he came in with just an otherworldly ability on the mic. But he has put in the work to where he is actually really good in the ring now too. And that's been a pleasure to see. And on the opposite end, Will Ospreay, you know, otherworldly in the ring. But this run in AEW right now, they're letting him talk, and he's amazing on the mic too. And I love to see talent that are amazing in both aspects, because those guys are gold. I mean, they can literally write their own ticket.
So since we brought up his name, if I'm going to be honest, when it comes to who in wrestling is my biggest inspiration, weirdly enough, MJF. because at the end of the day, with how great he is at such a young age, like
Mhm.
that in a way is what I strive for, is what I strive to surpass. Like in a way, I kind of want to be where he's at, even if it's shoot by tomorrow. Like that's what kind of drives me to work every day, because I was like, if he can be that great and like be champion, have longest reign in AEW, and be considered to be one of the greatest for
Mhm.
how quick and young he like how quick he got to and how young he is, like why would I not try to like double that effort and try to get there quicker?
Exactly. And it's funny, the majority of interviews that you see with him, he's in character. I actually ran across an interview a while back where he was out of character and just the nicest guy in the world. But I mean, but you have to dig hard to find that, because he lives that character.
And that's why even talking about the differences between Don and Miguel, I've tried for so long to come up with a character. You can ask anybody. Like I was like, do I want to be like a playboy kind of character? Do I want to be like serious and stuff? Like, how do I want to go about it? But the truth is, I think deep down, part of me didn't want to create a character because, first of all,
Mhm.
the stress of having to keep up with it, but then also
Right.
too, especially if you like, for example, if I had the character of MJF, right?
Yeah.
To I don't want to ever have outside the ring me be the same as I am in or in the ring me be the same as outside of me ring.
Yeah.
And like it's just the fear of those worlds collide. Like, I don't know. I don't like that. Like I'd
Yeah.
rather, it's easy for me, to be honest. So
Yeah.
that's just why Don and Miguel are kind of the same person. Just one has some better qualities, some, you know.
Yeah. 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 But I wonder though, like you were saying, how do you turn it off? Like how does Maxwell Friedman turn off MJF? I mean,
Yeah,
it's
my thought process, either way, Don Miguel and Miguel Arbalest both got to answer to God at the end of the day. So that's why it's
absolutely.
however they can do it. Especially, that's the one thing I love about MJF as well, that he's somebody who is keeping the art of kayfabe alive. Because especially when you look back at these interviews with
Oh
any
yeah.
wrestler, the curtain is pulled so much, and at the end of the day, it's a cool thing, because now everybody like gets to know more, and it's like when you learn the history, like your what's that show called, like the Dark Side of the Ring.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like those kind of things are cool, but then at the same time, you also kind of like get rid of the magic of it.
Yeah.
But in that same sentence, I know I'm kind of contradicting myself here. It actually kind of works too, because even if you have that knowledge and you're still able to suspend that belief that it's like, I don't know, it's one of those things. If you can still believe it's real even when you know it's fake, there's kind of like a beauty in that. But I do
Oh,
miss it. I do miss
sure.
the days where kayfabe and like, it's all real, brother.
Yeah. Yep. 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 Speed round. Tony Schiavone.
Mm, mm. You ever you're ever in an argument and you have a response in your head and you're like, that's probably not going to go over well. You have the second response, that's not going to go well. And then the third response, like, okay, we might have something here. Now, with that being said, nothing bad about Tony Schiavone. Love him. I think he does great work. I mean, obviously, he has a body of work that he's been doing this for a while now. For some reason, the first thing I thought of Tony Schiavone, I don't know if you remember, I think it was, I want to say Mariah May cutting a promo. And I don't
Mhm.
know if he meant to mute himself or what, but ends up calling her the he was like, hurry up, and then said the B word. I'm surprised he wasn't fired in that moment, because that actually caught me
I
off
don't
guard.
remember that.
Oh, I want to say it was him. If it's not, then please forgive me and ignore everything I'm saying right now. But I remember
No,
hearing
it,
that,
it, it probably was.
and I'm like, is this guy not like getting released the next day? Like, I'm so confused. But for some reason, that's my first thought when I think of Tony Schiavone. But I do hope one day, like, I get to work with him, or like anybody we talk about, Corey Graves, Tony Schiavone, or
Yeah.
anybody else you got in future speed rounds. Like, I'd love to work with all these people.
Yeah. Well, you can kind of see the theme in tonight's speed rounds. I'm sort of tailoring it to your area of expertise.
I
We'll,
wouldn't have expected anything less.
we'll go ahead and do another name now just for fun. Matthew Raywald.
This is another name I do not know.
He is one of the commentators on TNA. He actually has done in-ring work. Back in the 2000s when Miro was Rusev in WWE, he came out with Rusev and sang the Rusev Day song.
Really?
Yeah, and now he's a commentator in TNA.
Apparently, being with Rusev back in the day got you places. Like Joe Hendry being Rusev's lawyer, and now he's like one of the top stars in the world. Apparently, something about being around the Bulgarian or whatever his nickname was, being around
Bulgarian
Rusev,
Brute. Yeah,
something about being around him and Lana apparently does wonders for your career.
Apparently, yeah. So let's see here. So you mentioned it a few minutes ago, but I'd like for you to, I guess, elaborate a bit. You mentioned an all-time favorite match of yours. What was that again? And elaborate on why it's your favorite.
Dolph Ziggler versus The Miz, No
That's
Mercy.
right.
That title versus career match. And it's one of those things where one of my favorite wrestlers of all time is Dolph Ziggler, Nick Nemeth, whatever you want to call him. Because first of all, in-ring work was great, especially his selling. Him on the mic is phenomenal. The way he made you feel with his promos. Like when he said, "I'm gonna put my career on the line," I was like, please, Lord, do not let this be the day that I see Dolph Ziggler retire, because my heart would have been broken if that was the case. Man, he's just so good at everything he does. And I know it's gonna be, I don't know if this is a hot take. No, I'm gonna say this with pride. Greatest super kick goes to Dolph Ziggler. I think his super kick is great, especially pairing that with the zigzag, which I think is an underrated move. Like he has it all, like character, charisma, the in-ring, the mic skills. Like he was somebody that they should have made the face of the company. But at the end of the day, that didn't happen. And luckily he's finding success in where he is now. And like I said, I love The Miz now that I'm older. And it's something like I wish I can kind of go back in time and like appreciate that match and that story more. And then even the way they tied certain things, like I remember Maurice in the previous pay-per-view did the pepper spray, which caused Dolph Ziggler the match. She then did it again, but this time he kicks out, then bringing in the Spirit Squad and doing all of that. Like it was a nice, a beautifully wrapped in a bow story.
Well, and Miz is actually at a really cool part of his career now, because he's kind of done it all. He's sort of the grizzled veteran at this point. And I'm noticing now they're using him to kind of help some of the younger talent get further over. Like he's doing this thing now with Carmelo Hayes, I love to see that, because doing stuff like that and paying it forward is just good for your legacy.
Well, and then also too, yes, that, but then also too, I think that's such a great pairing too, Carmelo Hayes and The Miz, because there's a lot of similarities, especially looking at young Miz and Carmelo Hayes, and then the things they could do together. Like, I mean, we may mention it earlier. The Miz, you would think the older you get, the more decreased your moveset can become, but no, The Miz actually ends up expanding it. And the Carmelo Hayes he's young, he's incredible. I kind of hate the way they're booking him now, because I mean, dude is a stud. But then I forgot when they did the skull crushing finale into the first 48, and somebody in the comments was like, "Oh, the skull crushing 48." Like, there's things you could build upon there. So I'm hoping they make that a kind of not a long-term thing, but long enough to get Miz still gets his love. Carmelo Hayes gets built up so that when he does separate from Miz, or if he does go on to something else, then it's like he's not going to get booked to lose every single time.
Right, right. So, a little while ago, we heard about your first match. Now, if you can narrow it down, do you have a favorite match that you've called?
Mm.
And if so, why is it your favorite?
Favorite. I will say this match is my favorite because I didn't think I would work for this promotion, at least not for a while. I did not think I would get to work with this wrestler again. And it was a match that I guess I didn't think too much about until other people gave me a lot of props for it. So it was something that I feel like kind of gave me some good eyes on me. Southern Honor, it was the main event. Nathan Mowry versus Rhino for the DWA Ultraviolent Championship.
Oh, wow.
That match was spectacular. And like I said, I didn't think I'd get to work with Southern Honor because I know, and I tell people this, with wrestlers, it's easier working on shows because you can always show up early, help build a ring. You might get a pre-show match, dark match. If you're at Action, you get next up. You might get a scramble somewhere. Whereas commentators, you never really switch anybody out like that. Like once you have your team, you're kind of dead set. So once I realized Southern Honor had their group of people, it was like hard to fathom getting an opportunity. And so luckily one of them was out. So that kind of helped me a little. But then also too, and shout out Chainmail for hooking me up with DWA. But because it was a DWA match, he wanted me on the call for it. So they were able to get that through. And then I was able to come on and do that match. And that was just a phenomenal time. And again, I didn't think I'd get to work with Rhino again. It was already exciting to work with Rhino the first time. And I was like getting to work with him. I will say one of my favorite moments was the moment Sting and Darby Allin showed up at the A4 when they and Fox and Swerve were feuding. Technically, I did call it, but I know AEW didn't use my call. So I don't know, it's 50-50, but that was a favorite moment. And so I've been so blessed to meet legends that like have obviously paved the way for the business. And so that match holds a special place in my heart. And then I'll try honestly, any AR Fox match I get to call because anytime he wrestles, especially at the A4, it's always where I don't know that it's going to happen. So it's always genuine surprise. Like it's a genuine surprise feeling when he comes out and I'm like, yes. Because then it's like, oh, dude, I try to do that man justice in so many ways. And I even asked him, and I hope this happens still. But I did ask him if I can commentate his like last match when he retires. And he was like, yes.
Oh, nice.
So I'm hoping I get that.
What a thrill that will be.
I'm excited. I just can't wait to see who he goes against. Because then it's like now what opponent do you bring for that? But
yeah, I'm still hoping one of these days to get Fox on the show. I would love to pick that man's brain, but I know he's a busy guy. So
I'll try to put in a good word for you. I got you. But yeah, no. If you ever get a chance, if it makes you feel any better, so I don't know if you saw it, but once upon a time, I did this interview series called 5 Questions in 5 Minutes. And
oh, really?
So I mean, the whole premise was 5 questions, 5 minutes, and it had a decent run. I forgot why I stopped. And I've toyed about bringing it back, but for some reason, there's always something that happens where I forget to bring it back. But one of my newer guests was going to be Fox, and we did an episode, but it was funny. Like in the footage, you just see me and him as we're talking, slowly moving to the left. So there's a point where we're just completely out of frame as we're talking.
Oh no!
And that's the reason we never posted it. And he was like, "Oh, we'll redo it another day." But then that was during, again, the prime time of him and Swerve versus Darby and Sting.
Yeah.
So like the next day, he has an interview with Chris Jericho, and then so many things happen where we just never had the time to do it again. And so I hate that never got put out there, but yeah.
Yep. Speed round.
Yeah.
Excalibur.
Uh, he is dope, especially the fact that he has to wear a mask as a commentator. I
Yeah.
toyed with the idea of doing that. The only issue was that the mask would probably be expensive, and on top of that, if I was like trying to sell it as merch, like it would have been a lot. And then also,
Yeah.
I've been blessed with a handsome face. Why would I want to hide this from the world, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Don't hide the moneymaker.
Now, with
I
that
mean,
being said, though, I'm curious how he sees through that mask, especially because it's one of those masks where like the eyes are covered. So it's like,
yeah.
I'm curious if that affects the job. If anything, does that sometimes maybe make it easier because they block some things out? I don't know, but it's definitely a cool look, and even his name Excalibur, like,
Yeah.
he's got it down.
So, what are your thoughts in general on the overall state of the wrestling business?
Whether you like it or not, it's growing and it's becoming undeniable. It's becoming something that pop culture is acknowledging, and it's meshing well with the amount of competition. There is something for everybody. If you want great story, WWE. If you want to see the best in-ring talent, go out and get your dream matchups, AEW. If you like your strong style, I mean, New Japan, I mean, they got their guys, like they're coming up, especially with wrestlers like Gabe Kidd, you know, him bringing eyes with what he
Yeah.
did. Obviously you got your thousands upon thousands of lucha stuff if you like that kind of style, or like even companies like your MLWs and stuff like that doing stuff here in the States. I mean, there's something for everybody, whether it's as a viewer, whether you're in the industry trying to get work. It's booming. Like, this is the time to get hooked on a wrestling, especially again, like with the John Cena heel turn.
Yeah.
You may not watch wrestling, but you know who John Cena is. So everybody and their mama is going to be blowing up about John Cena. So it's the way it's growing, and it's becoming cool again. It's becoming, you're not ashamed to like wrestling anymore. Like it's something where everybody can enjoy it, from kids to adults. That's why I like WWE, especially now. Because don't get me wrong, I love it when Punk or anybody throws a good F-bomb, or like, especially, man, arguably greatest moment of Elimination Chamber, telling The Rock to go F himself. So like, it was something like for us as adults,
I mean, who didn't pop? I mean, you know,
dude, like, so there was something like for all the adults fans, and they even like the little kid fan, like the kid probably enjoyed that, but then also too, they keep it still clean enough to where kids can enjoy it and the parents are cool with it. And like, even, I mean, shoot, I use wrestling to connect with my family, especially like my cousin's little kids. They, whenever they come over, I'll play the video games with them. So that's a way for me to connect with them. Ellie, she loves Tiffany Stratton, and like her doing, like, she's starting to do gymnastics and stuff. And like one of my best friends, his little brother, like after coming to a few A4 shows, he was talking to wrestlers like, I want to be a wrestler. So it's not even just in the grand scheme of things, just the little things of seeing the next generation, seeing people close to me love it and even join it with me. I promise you, before I got into commentary, announcing all that stuff, I was me and maybe one other person was watching wrestling in my family. But then because I got into wrestling, it got other people into wrestling. So it's like now me and my cousin text each other every now and then. It's like, yo, did you see Raw? And then it's awesome.
My wife is not a wrestling fan, but since I've started doing these live streams, you know, she now at least will say she understands why I am. And she was sitting there the other night during the Cena heel turn, and you know, she found she was actually knitting. She's a knitter. That's one of her hobbies. And she was sitting there knitting, and she found herself mesmerized with that whole segment, because she knew who Cena was. And you know, when the camera zoomed in on his face, and then you saw Rock do the throat cut, you know, she was like, oh my gosh, is this fixing to happen? And
it's funny. I surprisingly, like, there's like, obviously I had the shock on my face when Cena made the straight face look.
Yeah.
But it was also something I was anticipating because somebody made the prediction
Yeah.
and it wasn't out the way. But what got me laughing was The Rock, instead of doing a normal throw slash, like doing like one of these, like here throw, he went all the way like under the chin and did that. It like went so far up, and I'm like,
Yeah.
are you trying to like cut his face off? Like, what are we doing here? So that killed me for a little bit.
Yeah. So, what is your take on the role that social media is playing as a promotional tool for wrestling, specifically indie wrestling?
Oh, it's gigantic, and it has to be. It's become the new way of communication. Everybody's always on their phone. I don't care if somebody says they're not. There are, and they're
Yeah.
always on social media. So it's a way for you to get eyes. And luckily, especially when you can do things like collaborate on an Instagram post and make somebody else's followers view your stuff. I mean, just that exchange of audience is so gigantic. And again, going back to communication, like there's been promotions that I've reached out to be like their commentator, and I did that through social media. That's how I got the
Mhm.
RIPW job. I texted Renegade because I heard he was making a promotion. I was like, hey, do you have a commentary guy? And he was like, no, not yet. And I was like, congratulations, you just got one. And so I've been there, like the voiceover there since day one. And so
Awesome.
there's certain things with social media that I wouldn't have the pleasure of being at some of these places doing what I do without it. And now, with that being said, there's days where I do encourage mental health days and like take a break from social media, because I will promise you, my happiest days have been the days where I have forced myself not to be on social media. But it's one of those things where you can't help but see the pros when it comes to the business side of things. I wish there was a thing
Oh,
on
for
Instagram
sure.
where you can disable the reels. On a, like disable certain stuff so I'm not like scrolling forever, but then keep
Yeah.
like the communication side open so I can talk to whoever to at
Yeah.
least make mental health somewhat happy and the business side of me happy.
Right. Yeah. What do they call it? Doom scrolling?
Uh, I did it earlier today. I was folding laundry. I sat down for a second, went on TikTok, and I was on there for 30 minutes. Like it's a
Yep.
bad spiral.
Yeah. It'll definitely suck you in. So, knowing everything that you know at this point in your life, if you could give any advice to your younger self, what would it be?
Mm, man, where do we start? Um, man, it okay. Question: is this strictly wrestling wise, or is this just in general, like in life?
Just in general.
Don't give up on God because He hasn't given up on you.
For
And
sure.
because I will admit, there wasn't like I grew up in the church, and there was a time I was strong as a kid, but then the world hit me pretty hard, and so
Yeah.
I was away. I was questioning. I was considering other religion. Like I felt like I was truly on the other end until my grandpa passed away, because he died believing in God. And so that was the realization that hit me, that I would rather follow God and be wrong at the end, because at least in doing so I won't be ashamed of who I was in this life. Whereas
Absolutely.
being wrong, not following him, and then I pay the price in the
Yeah.
afterlife. And then like the other day, that hit me so hard, because when Jesus is on the cross and he's about to die, he leaves, says, God, why did you, or Father, why did you like forsake me? Because
Yeah.
in the moment he's taking on the sin of everybody. I thought about it too. He becomes the biggest sinner of us all, surprisingly,
Yeah.
because he takes on all the sin. So he experiences what separation from God feels like. And he could have said that at any point, when like he could have cursed his own father. He could have like stopped all the pain and all that he was enduring. But it was only when he was about to die did he say that. And so
Yeah.
it was one of those things where Jesus's worst moment was the moment the spirit left him.
Yeah.
And his worst moment, I can only imagine what that moment will do to me come the time I die, come when I see God and he says, leave me for I never knew you.
Yeah. 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 It's, but the beauty of it is, even in the times that we do stray and get further away, he's always standing there with his arms open.
The prodigal son
And
story.
yeah, absolutely. And the Bible has just so many wonderful stories that are just that even though it was written as long ago as it is still so applicable to everyday life. And I think a lot of people lose sight of that.
So another reason why I know this is gonna be kind of like a weird sidebar, but another reason why I like Epic the Musical is because there's certain songs that remind me of my relationship with God. Especially, well, have you read the Odyssey?
I have. It's been a while, but I have. Yeah,
So
back in high school.
I guess I'm gonna call this a spoiler alert if you haven't watched it or anything. But the last song is when Odysseus, after 20 years, finally reunites with his wife. And the song's called "Would You Fall in Love with Me Again?" And Odysseus is Lee saying like, "I've killed a lot of people. I've traded like my friends like objects, and I've done all these things, but I did all of this to come back to you. So would you fall in love with me again?" And her response is, or at least in the musical, is like, "I would fall in love with you over and over again. No matter where, how, when. Like you're always mine, and no matter what you've done, you're still the same person in me." And so like I listen to that song sometimes and I think like that's God, like God, I've sinned against you, I've lied, I've done all these things. It's like, would you still love me? Like, would you still die for me again? Like if it came to that, would you still love me again? And Penelope's response is what I imagine she's saying, like, of course I would fall for you again. You're still my child, you're my creation. You've been that since I died for you before you even made. And so
Yep.
it's one of those things where, man, God is so good.
Oh, he is
He's
all
so
the
good.
time.
We don't deserve it. We don't.
No, we don't. We don't. But the beauty of it is he loves each and every one of us so much and so deeply. And
And
you
it's become
know,
a thing where like when I sin, because like especially now that like I'm starting to read my Bible more and I'm growing in this knowledge that when I sin, like now it's become blatant when I do sin. And it's like I get mad at myself later because it's like, man, I know what God did and I love what he did, and I still do it. Like, what am I doing? Like I get so passionate, almost like angry about it. I almost become Don Miguel on myself. And I'm like, dude, what are you like? I'm about to go off on myself. Like, what are you doing? Like, you should
yeah,
know better. And you do know better. So why don't you do better? And that's the one I hate
yeah,
about being human.
yeah. The human condition kind of sucks.
Yeah. That's like, and I always find that like man, God is a comedian because there's certain things he says or like he does like
Oh
he
yeah,
knows it's like how you want us to reach this level, knowing good and well we're only gonna be bare minimum here. So it's like kind of like a joke, but then luckily, thank God, God is willing to meet us where we're at, and so
yeah, yeah. Well, God definitely has a sense of humor. He has to have servants like us. I mean,
don't even get me started. I can tell you billions upon stories where I looked up in the sky. I was like, "Oh, you thought that was funny, huh?"
Mhm. So, do you have any pre-show traditions? Any things that you try to do consistently before you go live doing commentary?
Um, so you're not the first person to ask me that, and everybody's like, "Oh, do you do any vocal warm and stuff like that?" I really don't. The best case vocal warm up is in the car when I'm A, praying, and B, again and again, this is where the human condition comes in. Because yes, I'm praying, I'm like, thank you God, like, let me have a good show, and then the next minute, I'm turning on old Eminem and, like, singing every lyric because that's how I get in the mindset for it. But that is
Yeah,
kinda like 'cause like I said, there's a certain switch that has to be made to get into like the level of ready to go. And so like I have to make that switch. And so like listening to music get me ready, praying to make sure I have a good show, and then and like I said, just being comfortable with adapting, because everything is going to go wrong. It always does. Something get screwed with technology. I do not speak any other language. I don't speak Spanish. I don't speak anything like that. English is my first language, but I talk like it's my second language. I will mess up.
Yeah.
Something can happen in the ring. Like anything can happen. So it's going in there with the mindset, do the best you can, and no matter what happens, be okay knowing you gave it your all.
Absolutely. So something that we've done in all of these that's just been kind of fun is we've let the current guest pose a question for the next guest. And like I said, my previous guest was this Ukrainian wrestler who is currently in Spain. But the question that he posed is, which fictional character is closest to your wrestling persona?
Wrestling persona? Ooh.
Well, your persona, I guess. What fictional character is closest to Don Miguel?
Spider-Man. Because
Okay.
Peter Parker is a nerd. Like Peter Parker was somebody like you didn't want to be friends with. Like nobody did, right?
Mhm.
Whereas when he put on the mask, when he becomes Spider-Man, like again, that confidence goes through the roof. Like he can tell you jokes while throwing a Ford F-150 90 miles per hour at your head. Like Spider-Man and Peter Parker were definitely two different people, but I mean, he's somebody that we've all grown to love. And I mean, he's definitely somebody that, like, when it comes to certain life lessons, like, yes, like God taught me certain things, mom and dad taught me certain things. Spider-Man taught me some things too.
Oh, for sure, for sure. With great power comes great responsibility.
Mm-hmm. And I will say he is my favorite, so I am happy to also say that.
Awesome. Well, since this is part of a series, do you have a question that you would like to pose to the next guest? And I can go ahead and tell you, I mean, the question does not have to be specific to this person, but the next guest on Wednesday at 7, I've got a female wrestler, Amanda Fuentes. She goes by the prestigious Professor. So like I said, it doesn't have to be specific to her, but is there a question that you would like to pose?
Let's see. So, okay, her name is Amanda Fuentes. So I am assuming she is of like a Hispanic kind of background, like Spanish.
That would be my assumption as well.
So if that is the case, my question is, do you ever feel like you are representing representing the culture and representing your background and like these other people when you go out and do what you do? I probably should have worded it a lot better. I just realized you're typing it.
No, that's well, how would you answer that?
I kind of don't think in that mindset, just because I'm in this space, and I've actually had this conversation the other day. I have a Hispanic background. I have a Spanish name. I look Spanish, but I don't speak it. So I immediately get left out of a group, right? So then we go to a different group, right? Like white people. I'm clearly not white. So I get kind of left out of that group. And then, okay, so then we get another group, black people, right? Like, yes, we're both types of people that aren't white, but I'm also not black. So I get in this weird space where I don't belong to everybody, but I've let it work to my favor because that's allowed me to connect with everybody. And so even for example, I keep telling the story all the time. I went to the Last Change show out in Conyers. And I went more in support of a different friend. I was not expecting to work. I was going to try to, but I wasn't expecting it. But then luckily I get the chance, and Najicism is like, "Hey Don, come over here," and he goes, "You're not black, but we'll make it work." And so, excuse me, it was one of those things where I was able to be in that space and be able to work in that space because I'm cool with everybody, whether it is, you know, African American crowd, whether it's white crowd, whether it's Spanish crowd, whether it's Asian crowd, wherever. And that's something I try to, even not even just as Don, but as Miguel, try to be cool with everybody.
Absolutely.
Excuse me.
So we're pretty much at the end of things at this point. So do you have any upcoming shows or anything at all that you'd like to give some hype to?
Actually, this Saturday, DWA Match Madness. Let me triple check that as well, because it is all fun and games until I actually get it incorrect, and then I look bad, and I will never hear the end of it from everybody. But I do want to say that is the next show. I am correct. March 15th, Saturday. At Alpharetta at a place called Wowing Cafe. I would definitely suggest that whoever can show up, please do. We got Brawl at the Hall 3 coming up soon. I want to say, I forget the specific date. It will be on a Thursday. So I would definitely recommend coming out. I want to say it's at Believe Music Hall. Either stay tuned to my socials, the WWA4 socials, or Chainmail. One of those three socials will have it. And then I will always big up anything RIPW that's coming out soon. We were supposed to have a show on Sunday, but unfortunately we will not have that show anymore. But again, stay tuned to all the socials for dates. And then I don't know if you were there for the last RPW show or have heard the news, but a new promotion is starting up with Now That's TV, called Now That's Wrestling. So when NTW becomes a thing, I would recommend that you guys, watch it on Now That's TV, or come out to our shows. We got a lot of big stars on there. Like, we got Alex Kane and we got some of those other boys. So
nice.
It's dude, it's gonna be awesome. Like, if you've been to any of our RPW shows, I mean, anybody that you see on there is more than fair game that you might see on Now That's Wrestling. Now, with that being said, though, for those that weren't there at the last RPW show, at the end, there was kind of a split in RPW. One side is going to go with Renegade to Now That's Wrestling, and the other side is going to stay back with Mike doing RPW stuff. So it's going to be interesting to see how that plays out. Honestly, right now I'm speaking as if I'm going to work for both, but I don't know. I might stick with one. If I play my cards right, I'm going to get both. Double the money, double the work. But, if one of them wants to pay me more to be a little more faithful.
We'll see. Time will tell.
Who's to say?
Exactly. But anyway, like I said, as far as what we've got going here at the Throwdown, Wednesday at 7 p.m. Eastern, I've got episode 96. I can't believe we're approaching 100 of these things. That is just
crazy.
Wild.
I'm assuming you're going to have a special guest for like the 100.
Actually, episode 100, I've got a guy named Mercury Yaden, who is the founder of Rocky Mountain Pro Wrestling out in Denver, Colorado.
That's
and they actually have some really good stuff on YouTube. If you're not watching Rocky Mountain Pro, check it out. Marty Casaus, Marty the Moth from Lucha Underground is heavily on that show, and actually Vince Russo does a lot of their creative. So it's really good stuff. And then on Thursday, the 13th, this Thursday at 7, I've got episode 97 with a fellow wrestling podcaster, Justin from the I Love Wrestling podcast. He's a good buddy of mine. We've done a little bit of cross promotion, and so he's going to be coming on just to nerd out about wrestling for a little while. So And we've got a bunch more stuff coming, so definitely keep an eye on my socials. I'm actually booked pretty much through April, so it's definitely taking on a life of its own. And for those of you that have been watching this live, thank you. For those of you that'll be seeing this on replays, thank you for that. If you like what we've got going here, do the old like, comment, share, and subscribe. And before we wrap this up, do you have any final words for the Throwdown Nation, Miguel?
I'll just say, like you said, you're coming up on 100 episodes pretty soon. Man, God bless you. And I'm so happy to hear that this has turned into a thing that's taken on a mind of its own. I hope it only keeps expanding, keeps growing. And to anybody watching, I love you guys. God bless you guys. And just stay tuned, whether it's here on the Throwdown or my career. Things will be getting bigger, better. And once upon a time, I cut this promo way back when. Probably will delete it just because it was what it was. But I made the prediction: year 1, I'd be good. Year 2, I'd be better. Year 3, I will be greatest of all time. And right now I'm on the track to that. So stick around.
I believe it, brother. I believe in you, and I believe that brilliant things are ahead for you. I mean, you have got such a positive energy, and God's light is shining through you. And man, it's just exciting.
All for
So
him.
anyway, I'll be back Wednesday night with Amanda Fuentes. And until then, be good to each other, love each other, and keep throwing down.